Today, we finally tackle the legendary left-right game, a road that shouldn't exist and a journey you'll never forget. Dim the lights and stay sharp. Let's dive in. My name is Elias Thorne. I've spent the better part of a decade carving out a niche as an investigative journalist, a title that essentially translates to professional skeptic. I've traveled from the humidity of the bayou to the frozen reaches of the Pacific Northwest to debunk urban legends that thrive in the dark. I have stood in haunted forests and recorded nothing but the wind. I have tracked monsters that were just bears with mange. My world is built on high-definition lenses, calibrated sensors, and GPS logs that don't lie. I believe in the tangible, the measurable, and the cold, hard logic of the visible world. I didn't come to Miller's Creek to find a ghost. I came to write a story about how our brains invent patterns to survive boredom. But as I sit here now, with my recorder spinning and my headlights fading into an impossible fog, I realize that some patterns are built into the fabric of a reality we aren't supposed to touch. The left-right game had been floating around the deeper archives of Reddit for years. It was framed as a creepypasta, a digital campfire story about a driving ritual. The premise was deceptively simple. Find a specific starting road, turn left, then take the next available right, and repeat the sequence. Those who claimed to have played it spoke of a shifting world, a place where the laws of physics slowly unravel as you drive deeper into a parallel geography. Most skeptics dismissed it as a study in highway hypnosis, where the repetitive nature of the turns puts the driver in a trance-like state. I wanted to capture that transition on camera. I wanted to show my audience exactly when the brain starts to hallucinate under the pressure of isolation and repetition. I came prepared with a 2018 SUV, 4 dash cams, and a digital audio interface designed to catch even the faintest whisper of the unknown. I was ready for a long night of nothing. I arrived at the intersection of Highway 42 and Miller's Creek at exactly 2:14 a.m. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of damp pine needles and old, wet asphalt. To the left was a narrow gravel road that seemed to disappear into a dense wall of ancient forest. To the right was the main highway I had just vacated. I checked my cameras one last time, ensuring the red lights were steady. My heart was steady too, a slow, rhythmic beat that matched the humming of my engine. "Entry 1, I said, my voice echoing slightly in the cramped space of the SUV. I'm at the trailhead. Everything is within normal parameters. There isn't another vehicle for at least 10 miles. I'm starting the sequence now. First turn, left." The tires crunched over the gravel, and for a moment, the headlights illuminated the eyes of a deer in the distance. Then, there was only the dark. The first hour was a masterclass in monotony. I followed the sequence religiously. Left, right, left, right. I passed through a landscape that felt agonizingly familiar. There were dilapidated farmhouses with sagging porches, rusted mailboxes that looked like crooked sentinels, and the occasional empty barn that loomed like a wooden tomb. I narrated every detail, noting the temperature drops and the way the fog began to curl around my tires. I was looking for the tell, the moment my mind would start to play tricks on me. I kept my speed at a constant 30 miles per hour, my eyes darting between the odometer and the road. Every few miles, I'd check the GPS, which showed me moving in a jagged line away from the main road. It was boring. It was predictable. I began to worry that the story would be a bust, just another night spent chasing a digital ghost that didn't exist in the physical world. By the 21st turn, however, the boredom vanished. I am a meticulous navigator, a man who has hiked the Appalachian Trail twice without ever losing his way. My internal compass is sharp, and it was telling me something was fundamentally wrong. According to the number of turns I had taken, I should have been circling back toward the highway, or, at the very least, approaching the coastal wetlands. Instead, the road was rising. Sharp, jagged mountains that weren't on any map began to rise out of the fog, their peaks hidden in a sky that had turned a sickly, bruised shade of purple. The farmhouses were gone. The mailboxes were gone. In their place stood towering, gray-barked trees that looked like they were made of stone. "Entry 4, I whispered, my voice sounding tight. "The geography has changed. My GPS has lost all satellite connection. The clock on my dashboard is stuck at 3:12 a.m., even though I know I've been driving for much longer." Then came the house. It appeared on the left after a particularly sharp turn. It was a Victorian-style structure, painted a vibrant, aggressive blue that looked almost luminous in the dark. It was pristine, as if it had been built yesterday. But there were no power lines, no driveway, and no signs of life. As I passed it, I noticed that every single window was boarded up with heavy steel plates that had been bolted into the wood from the inside. I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the air conditioning. 3 miles later, after a right and another left, the blue house appeared again. It was identical in every detail. The same wet-looking paint, the same steel-plated windows. But this time, the front door was standing wide open. I didn't stop to look inside. I didn't want to know what kind of hallway was waiting for me behind that vibrant blue facade. I just kept my hands on the wheel and drove into the growing mist. I checked my watch. 3:45 a.m. I checked it again a minute later. It still said 3:45 a.m. The digital display was frozen, the colon between the numbers no longer blinking. I looked at the dashboard clock, the analog dial on my wrist, and the timer on my audio recorder. All of them had stopped at exactly the same moment. It was as if time had been stripped away from the world, leaving only the sound of my engine and the crunch of the tires on that strange, porous road. The air inside the SUV grew heavy and cold, smelling of wet stone and old, oxidized copper. I reached out to adjust the heater, but my hand stopped an inch from the dial. There was a man standing in the road. He was tall and impossibly thin, wearing a tattered charcoal suit that didn't move in the wind. He was facing away from me, staring into the impenetrable darkness of the woods. I slammed on the brakes, skidding to a halt just feet from him. He didn't turn around. He didn't even flinch. Even with my high beams focused directly on his back, he didn't cast a shadow on the road. He looked like a void, a hole cut out of the fabric of the universe. "Entry 7, I breathed, my voice barely a whisper. "There is a pedestrian on the road. He is unresponsive." I shifted into gear and slowly crawled forward, giving him as much space as the narrow road allowed. As I passed him, I looked through the side window. He had no face, just a smooth, pale mask of skin stretched over a skull with no eyes, no nose, and no mouth. I didn't scream. I just hit the gas, the engine roaring with a sound that seemed muffled, as if the atmosphere were too thick to carry vibrations. I didn't look back. I couldn't bear to see him turn around. The road began to change again. The trees were gone now, replaced by towering pillars of rusted machinery that stretched up into a sky that was no longer a sky, but a ceiling of grinding gears. A low, rhythmic thrumming began to shake the steering wheel. It sounded like a heartbeat, or the sound of a massive engine buried deep beneath the earth. I was on the 34th turn, a left. Suddenly, a voice spoke from the back seat. "Elias," it said. It was my mother's voice, clear and warm, even though she had been dead for 6 years. "Elias, honey, you're going the wrong way." I gripped the wheel until my knuckles turned white. I remembered the rules. Never look at the passengers you didn't bring. "You aren't real," I hissed. "You're a neurological projection." The voice laughed, a dry, rattling sound that didn't belong to my mother. "Is that what you're going to tell the people who find your empty car?" I reached the final turn. The road ahead was a bridge made of translucent glass, suspended over a swirling storm of purple and gold clouds. In the distance, I could see a city built at impossible angles, its buildings floating and connected by filaments of light. The engine sputtered and died. The dashboard lights flickered once and went black. I was trapped on the bridge. Below me, I could see massive, fleshy kites with long tendrils rising through the clouds. They had noticed me. I looked at my recorder. One word was flashing on the screen: proceed. I have to get to the gate at the end of this bridge. If I stop, I become a memory with no mouth. I'm opening the door now. If you find this recording, stay away from Miller's Creek. Don't play the game. Some roads aren't meant to be mapped. I'm stepping out. It's time for the final right turn. I can hear them breathing.